It is now 6:30, and because we have a very, I'm calling the town council meeting order because we have a very small group, and we have a couple people in transit, and we need them for a quorum. We do need to move things along. So we're calling the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Khan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will start with Councilor Billings-Smith.
Present.
Councilor Blanks.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Cortez.
Here.
Councilor Davidoff.
Here.
Thank you. Councilor Fay is absent. Councilor Sweeney is absent. Councilor Winograd.
Here.
Thank you. And Councilor Danowitz.
Here.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. And I want to thank Ms. Khan, who is filling in for our town clerk. She's assistant town clerk. We appreciate you organizing us tonight. A lot fell. I just want to, we have not met, and this is not given the justice that it deserves because of our time constraints. But the gun violence over July 4th weekend, I think, hit us all very, very, very strongly and tragically. I just want to, we know that I think everybody was aware of the Highland Park shooting in a suburb 25 miles north of Chicago. But the day before, there was also a mass shooting on the southern, the southern part of Chicago, which did not get the same publicity or discussion. This was a really, and over the July 4th weekend, there were 220 people killed over the July 4th weekend nationally, and 570 others were wounded. So this is just such a tragedy in our country, and there's a database that tracks gun shootings. Database listed 315 mass shootings across the country since the beginning of this year, and roughly 22,500 deaths from any form of gun violence. Again, very, very tragic. And I do want to recognize, again, since we met, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was passed, signed in on 6/25 by the president. And this will be a step towards some hopefully some help, but also the appointment of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives director. This is the first director that we've had in a long time. I will hopefully be addressing this issue and this scourge on our country of gun violence and the lives lost. So thank you all for giving me a moment. We will now go to the public forum section of our council meeting. Mr. Dodge is picking up the paper, and this has to be on something that is on the agenda and not subject to a public hearing. We did not have a public hearing this evening, so thank you, Mr. Dodge. We have 3 people signed up. State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council. So the first person is Dr. Tracy Wilson. It automatically activates, but you just have to have it close enough to you, so I don't know if it, thank you. Doesn't seem to.
I think there's a switch up there too.
Is there?
Up here?
I think so.
Bear with
It
us.
does go there too.
Maybe we can move.
Switch up there on the thing.
Or take one of them.
Yeah, I would take one of those again because of our time constraints. So we cannot lose one of them before we.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you. You can sit. That would be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Wilson, 251 Ridgewood Road. I am the town historian. I want to start by thanking the elected officials here today for their service to the town. You are the strength of our democracy. According to your agenda, you will not be taking up the previously scheduled vote on the historical renaming of Sycamore Lane to Peleg Knott Lane. I remain compelled to speak on this topic, sharing my reflections on it, questioning our stated values in the political process. On June 6th, the acting chair of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission stated that the vote had passed by a vote of 3-1 and should move on to the Town Council. And yet, 37 days later, on July 13th, the Corporation Council ruled that the 3-1 vote in favor of changing the name of the street did not make a supermajority. While I make my remarks, I want you to think about who is the minority in this case. We know a supermajority is set up to protect the minority. But who is the minority in this case? Is it a neighbor who abuts Sycamore Lane on Prospect Avenue, or is it Peleg Knott? My thoughts begin with these questions regarding our values and responsibilities. Why was West Hartford's honorary and historic renaming of streets ordinance put in place? What role do elected and appointed officials play in changing the cultural landscape of a town to reflect the accurate history of this town and invite people into that conversation? And what responsibility do employees of the town have in carrying out the intent of this honorary and historic renaming ordinance? Those questions lead me to others regarding the process. The applicant, Isaias Wooden, and his team complied with the high bar set by this ordinance, going through each step of the process outlined in the ordinance, collecting signatures, presenting to the TP&Z, getting a vote of 3-1 in favor. Why are they asked to compromise? Why are they somehow in the wrong for using the ordinance as it was written? Why does the Corporation Council opine that renaming Sycamore Lane is not the best way to recognize and honor Peleg Knott when this ordinance is established for just that reason? Kevin Prestige of the TPZ stated that the street naming is far more powerful than a plaque or historical sign. It is a federal designation which becomes a formal part of the lexicon of street names in the town. Does the ruling of the Corporation Council mean that opposing landowners, of which there is one on this street, can stop this ordinance from being enforced? The ordinance's criteria are safety, historical significance, and residents with frontage on the street. There are 3 stated criteria for this ordinance, yet in practice, the town is adhering to this one. Since the vote, elected officials and town employees, instead of working with those who live on the street to discuss the historical substance of Peleg Knott's historical significance and educate them to understand the legacy they could leave in changing the cultural landscape by providing a touchstone for those willing to bring the reality of slavery in this town to light, have instead pressured the applicant and others on the team to compromise. Why have officials and employees spent so much time trying to work around this ordinance rather than make this ordinance work? Okay, I think my 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. Thank you
now
very much.
I'm handing off to Liz Devine.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liz Devine, and I live at 9 Ravenwood Road. The heart of our discussion should be Peleg Knott. His service in the Revolutionary War, his agency in running Jeremiah Wadsworth's estate where Sycamore Lane is located today, his gaining freedom, his popularity, his leadership skills, and his election as black governor. Why are we allowed the subject of slavery and freedom and recognizing it in this town instead to become a discussion about technicalities that seem to be in opposition to Robert's Rules of Order? And yet, here we are. My questions regarding the technicalities are as follows. Why was the second alternate who was in the room for much of the discussion not allowed to vote in this matter, even though they were prepared to do so? Why did the alternate who voted against the matter include in their remarks that we shouldn't change the names of streets, when in fact this is an ordinance passed by the town council? Why would the council establish an ordinance which asks for a 2/3 vote of a commission which is 5 members? If 2/3 of 5 is 3 1/3 members, is that 3 members or 4? The applicant should not be inconvenienced by these irregularities. In light of these irregularities and the lack of transparency in how this ordinance has been carried out, I ask you to allow the resubmission of the applicant's petition to the TPZ and allow for a vote of the full 5 members of the TPZ. According to the ordinance, if the commission or the council disapproves of an application to rename the public street, no application shall be accepted to rename such public street for 1 year following such disapproval. From my reading, the commission did not disapprove the application in its 3-to-1 vote, and the town council did not take up the application. We know a supermajority is set up to protect the minority. But who is the minority in this case? Is it a neighbor who abuts Sycamore Lane on Prospect Avenue, or is it Pellignot? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And the last speaker signed up, David Baker.
Hi, everyone. Before I begin, I just need to let you know I'm single parenting with 2 little kids outside. My wife's on a work trip, and my in-laws who babysit just got COVID. So I am going to be as fast as I can, and I apologize if any racket appears. So my name is David Baker. I live at 71 Hartwell Road. I'm the History Department Chair at Kingswood Oxford School, and I've advised and supported Isaias Wooden, the applicant of HSR number 2, for the past year as a sounding board and as an advocate. Isaias could not attend tonight due to a previously planned trip to Europe, so I speak again as his advocate for his research and work. As a lifelong resident of this town, I first want to thank our council members and our Planning and Zoning Commission members for their service and support of our town. I want to share right now my frustration at the recent ruling reversing the previously understood outcome of the Planning and Zoning Commission approval of Isaias Wooden's application seeking to rename Sycamore Lane to Pellignot Lane. Indeed, the local press has already reported that the application was approved by the PZC. So now the ruling has reversed the progress that Isaias thought had been made. And not, incidentally, the town administration has suffered confusion and, for some, an undeserved degree, I think, of potentially embarrassment. When Isaias Wooden came to me regarding the renaming of Sycamore Lane to Pellignot Lane, I was greatly impressed. His questions, his actions, his decisions were inspirational as he reached out to the one property owner with frontage on Sycamore Lane and navigated challenging conversations with residents of the neighborhood and the town. Prior to filing the application, Isaias wrote a letter to the only homeowners with frontage on Sycamore Lane and tried to visit them to explain his intended course regarding the street naming application. Without any answer to his knock on the door and without any phone call or written response to his letter from the homeowners, Isaias pressed forward, taking their silence as either support for or ambivalence towards the application. It wasn't until mid-May, a month later, that Isaias heard complaints from the homeowners with frontage and from their neighbor, Attorney Fleischman, whose side yard abuts the road. Meanwhile, Isaias had spent countless hours researching the history of Pellignot, preparing and filing his application, and collecting numerous petition signatures supporting his application, all as required by the town ordinance. At the June 6th hearing, Commission Member Prestige asked Isaias why he chose Sycamore Lane, and Isaias immediately noted 4 reasons as to why he chose the road, surprising members with his thoughtful research and care for historic detail about where Pellignot had lived and worked in that very neighborhood. No one disputed his carefully researched responses. At the close of this hearing, the vote was 3 in favor and 1 opposed, as you've heard multiple times tonight. Every person in the room, with the possible exception of Mr. Fleischman, believed the application had passed with a 3-1 vote, securing a supermajority of the members present. And a plain reading of the ordinance certainly led us all in attendance, as well as the members of the PZC, to believe that the application had passed by the required 2/3 supermajority of its members who had heard the matter and were entitled to vote. While the Corporation Council's opinion released yesterday explained legislative history of the town council asking and affirming that an applicant needed to have 4 votes for adoption, this history was not shared with the applicant and clearly wasn't shared with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, since its members believed the vote had passed and sent it on to the town council. At no point in time before or during the public hearing was anyone made aware of this potential technicality. This technicality was only brought forward after the vote, as Attorney Fleischman pressed his complaint that the ordinance required a supermajority of the entire membership of the commission. From there, the council and town planner began a lengthy researching process along with efforts to find an alternate street for Pellignot Lane as a means of appeasing the one resident with frontage, appeasing those with that abutted the road, and also appease the applicant Isaias Wooden. As I understand the background, and this is coming from the applicant.
Mr. Baker,
Isaias.
it's about 6 minutes now, or 5 minutes now, so if you could wrap up,
Sure.
I know, I'm sorry,
Sure.
but we really have to.
I understand. I'm so sorry. I'll leave it with this. A compromise or deal had been brought forward by interested parties supported by the Corporation Council and Town Planner to appease Isaias Wooden without having to honor the vote of the PZC or support the merits of the application that was approved. Does Peleg not deserve a compromise with 1/4 of a street named after him without a single mailing address on it? Does Peleg not's memory deserve town officials and residents working behind closed doors to avoid confrontation? Change is always inconvenient for somebody, and yet our democracy realizes the importance of change. It's what leads to progress, growth, and the honoring of the general will of its citizens. Rather than inconvenience the life and legacy of Peleg not any further, I urge the town council to waive the year-long waiting period for another application and bring HSR number 2 back to the PZC as soon as possible for a new hearing and vote, this time with all 5 members present. That to me seems fair. Thank you. And sorry for the time.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Okay, thank you all. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on something on the agenda? Okay, number 4, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move that we place items 5A, 7C, 7D, 7E, 10A, and 10B on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? And I'm listening on the phone too. Hearing no objection, the items are placed on the consent calendar. Mr. Winograd?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we are at number 7, Mr. Winograd.
Item 7A, application of Northbrook Place LLC and Elite Apartments LLC for rezoning and Special Development District Designation for 99 South Main Street. Oh, shoot. Without objection, I move that we receive the application, refer it to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, the Design Review Advisory Committee, and schedule for public hearing on August 16th, 2022 at 6:15 p.m.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the motion is adopted. B, Mr. Winograd.
Item B, application of the Arapahoe Group LLC for change of zone from RP, RO, and RMO to BC with Special Development District Designation for a mixed-use redevelopment along Arapago Road, LaSalle Road, and Farmington Avenue. Without objection, I move that we receive the application, refer it to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, the Design Review Advisory Committee, and schedule for public hearing on August 16th, 2022 at 6:10 p.m.
Is there any objection? There being no objection, the motion is adopted. We will now go to F, Mr. Winograd.
Item F, resolution authorizing the execution of a contract to purchase 705 Oakwood Ave and 12 Brixton Street. I move adoption of a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract to purchase 705 Oakwood Ave and 12 Brixton Street.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, would you please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll have our Director of Public Works, John Phillips, join us for a portion of this conversation. This resolution before you for approval authorizes us to execute a real estate contract for the purchase of 705 Oakwood Avenue and 12 Brixton Street. Both of these properties are across the street from our Department of Public Works complex and have been 2 parcels of land that we have been interested in for several years now, due obviously to their proximity to our DPW campus. These properties are presently owned by Cunningham Brothers Realty and have been on the market for some time now. About a month ago, we were approached by the owner who let us know that they had separate offers for both properties and was going to execute a contract with the buyers and offered us an opportunity to consider the purchase of these properties. These properties could provide us with a unique, once-in-a-decades type opportunity to expand our current public works footprint, providing us with the flexibility to better serve our community in 2 important ways. One being emergency preparedness. Because of the current composition of our campus, we would be inadequately prepared to meet the needs of our community from a material and debris management standpoint. The purchase of this land would allow us to relocate our animal control shelter, potentially our fire training facility, as well as our new fueling station to this location, as well as other public works equipment, freeing up valuable space we would need in the event of a storm like we had in October of 2011. You may remember back in 2011 that we had to utilize the Yukon property to transfer townwide debris and material during the storm. At the time, we were very fortunate that Yukon authorized this use, because if we did not have that space, we would have had nowhere else to transfer all of these materials. Today, as we know, Yukon is owned by a private developer, so in the event of an emergency, we would not have access to this site. The purchase would free up much needed space to meet the emergency needs of our town when the time comes. The second important reason for this expansion of DPW's campus is allow us to better meet the waste management needs of our community. As our council knows, we are in the beginning stages of the development of a materials solution center at the current DPW complex. And moving our animal control site, potentially our fire training facility, to the site across the street at Oakwood and Brixton would free up more space for the materials solution center, allowing trucks access to that center in the future, which will be a tremendous asset for not just the town, but potentially the region in the future. The execution of this agreement does allow us to continue our due diligence, in addition to providing a refundable 5% deposit of $65,750. We've also allocated $71,000 for legal services, appraisal services, environmental testing. We will begin our formal property review, environmental review, title review, and survey review. There are also contingencies for final town council approval, as well as financing and appraisal contingencies. So assuming everything goes smoothly, according to plan, there are no issues of concern, we would be back before the council sometime in the fall for final approval of this purchase. The total purchase price would be $1,315,000. However, if there are any issues uncovered during this due diligence review, we can terminate the contract at any time. We, of course, would keep the council apprised of our findings along the way with regards to a due diligence review. So at this point, we would pause here and turn it back to the council for any questions that you may have. We also have our director here to assist with any questions.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ledwith. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for being here. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Ledwith or Mr. Phillips? Many of us took a tour recently of Public Works, and we have a better understanding, I think, many of us, that the need for these parcels and to be able to respond to our community's needs, especially our commitment to, again, public safety, but also sustainability and the workings of Public Works. And that also is a public safety dynamic as well. So, Mr. Zdanowitz.
So, Mr. Phillips, thanks. For this project, I'm just, you said something to me when we were talking about fuel several months ago, how the mobile station up at Bishop's Corner is ideal for that during snowstorms, because traveling back would be not conducive, right? So I'm thinking about the same thing, right? If you did just one spot to dump things, say if we had a storm next week, and you had this facility as well, where else can you put stuff on the north part of town, and have you thought about that so that it's more convenient and efficient for you while responding to an emergency storm like that?
That's a great question. John Phillips, Director of Public Works. That's a great question. Historically, we always use the Eisenhower parking lot, and we've used that. Probably the last 15 years, we've moved more away from that just because neighborhood pressures, the activity that happens there. Fuel station, never gone through any sort of official approvals to be operating in that parking lot. So we've just made a decision to contract and bring everything down to Brixton Street, and it's worked well for us. We're always looking for those opportunities. Certainly the technology of the fuel credit card system is a benefit to us, and I don't think we'll ever do away with that because of just what you described, that flexibility of having to fuel up through the convenience of north end of town versus south end of town. And that could be a considerable travel in the middle of rush hour during their snowstorm. But with proper planning and proper preparation, most of our trucks could cycle through the yard while being resupplied for salt or other kinds of resource needs that they need for their truck, where fuel would be a part of that process. So we'd certainly look to minimize those inconveniences that way. But my mind's always spinning. If we could explore another better opportunity, we certainly will explore it and exercise that opportunity to its fullest.
Thank you, Mr. Zdanos. That was a good question. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any other questions or comments? All right, on the phone, all set? Okay, we will go to a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G, Mr. Winograd.
Thank
Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With particular pleasure, I move adoption of a resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement with Local 1241 International Association of Firefighters for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, would you care to summarize?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With me this evening, we have Chief Priest, Chief O'Callahan, and Chief Grimaldi. Before we get to the details of the agreement, we thought it would be useful to provide a little history of our relationship with the Firefighters Union, because we believe the contract you're voting on this evening is really a progression from where we started back in 2014 to where we are today, as our firefighters continue to serve our community in so many different ways, from providing fire suppression services to advanced life support services, to being a public safety presence on our streets during events like Celebrate and Juneteenth and our Pride Festival, just to name a few recent events. As some may remember, back in 2014, the fire union worked with us on a contract that addressed wage reform when they agreed to a wage freeze at that time. Healthcare reform when they agreed to the high deductible health plan for all members. Pension reform when they raised their employee contributions to the highest level in town and eliminated overtime from their calculation and reduced the multiplier from 2.5 times salary to 2 times salary for new hires, a group that now makes up over half of our firefighters in our department. Following that contract, we worked collaboratively with the fire union to deliver a new service to our community when we took over the paramedic services that were being provided by AMR at the time, saving nearly $300,000 in annual fees paid to AMR while adding approximately $750,000 in annual net revenue. We did this at the time without adding additional staff. Then in March of 2020, when our town, state, and country came to a stop at the start of what would become a 31-month and counting pandemic, our firefighters met with our chiefs, asked them what the town needed from them, and told us that whatever it was that we needed, they were going to do, regardless of a collective bargaining agreement. And from that very first day through today, they have stepped up and served our community in every way possible. They were on the front lines assisting sick residents when we knew very little about COVID and the risks that it may have had for our firefighter paramedics and their families. And that service continues even stronger today, which is why we are pleased to present this 3-year ratified contract for your approval that will run from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2025. From a wage perspective, the contract will call for a modest increase of 1% in the first year, 1.5% in the second year, and 2% in the third year. We're very appreciative of the union's understanding of the challenging economic environment we continue to navigate today. The average settlements we are seeing across the state right now are in the 2.4% range, with that number increasing over the last several months due to inflation rising. As we know, the state recently settled with their largest union at 2.5% per year with $3,500 signing bonuses. The remaining provisions of the settlement involve primarily operational issues with increased flexibility in management of promoted paramedics, improved specificity in job descriptions, and the restoration of the deputy chief rank from the current battalion chief rank, which keeps these roles in line with neighboring departments. We also updated the member inspection program, which supplements our current inspection program with Operations Division personnel and opens our inspection program to all members and creates a career track to the Fire Marshal's office. In addition, we did include language that would prohibit a member from holding a firefighting position in another community while maintaining a position here in West Hartford. We did increase the uniform stipend account from $100 to $200 for safety shoes, and did increase the college reimbursement account from $10,000 to $25,000. Before we turn things over to the council for comments and questions, we just wanted to take a moment to thank our firefighters who are represented by their president, Michael Bovin, and their executive team for their collaboration on a contract that is reflective of the tough economy we continue to be challenged by, and more importantly, for their commitment to always putting the safety of our community first, day in and day out. Before I turn it over to the council, I'll turn it over to the priest for any chief priest for any comments he had.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. I appreciate your support. Greg Priest, a proud fire chief in West Hartford, joined by my excellent leadership team, Assistant Chief O'Callaghan, Assistant Chief Grimaldi from our Fire Marshal's office. My remarks are very brief. The town manager has done an excellent job summarizing this tentative agreement. What you have in front of you today is a result of a good faith negotiation and collaboration between the town and the Firefighters Union. As with any contract, there's advancement in each party's interests. And one of the most significant items is the fact that we are extending an existing contract that provides stability as we face new challenges in our country, our state, our town, and within the fire service. The fact that we have agreement in and itself is just as important, and it demonstrates the continued willingness to work together for how best to serve our citizens. While the service provided during the pandemic was exemplary and courageous, the real message here is that the fire department has and will continue to step up in the face of any emergency at any time to provide exemplary fire, rescue, and paramedic service. This agreement builds on an evolving collaborative relationship and allows the West Hartford Fire Department to be a model employer who recruits and retains the best. I'm pleased to offer my support. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Chief Priest. Are there any comments? I was wondering if our public safety chair was available to comment. I know she's on the road, but I don't know. Carol? Ms. Blanks?
Yes, Madam Mayor, pardon me, there might be some noise in the background, but I totally concur with our town manager in terms of providing support for our public safety and our firefighters and the entire staff and leadership, especially now when so many things are happening. You mentioned the shootings around our country, and although our police officers are on the front line, our firefighters are standing right in partnership to provide care and treatment to those injured and comfort to loved ones of those who suffered loss. And I have expressed this a number of times to Chief Priest and his staff that they continue to provide exemplary work to our residents, our business owners, and not only that, but also provide the education in terms of what they do and why. So for this, I will be supporting this particular contract. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blanks. Appreciate your leadership on public safety and on all your really thoughtful comments. Mr. Davidoff, before I was just wondering if you would like to comment.
Madam Mayor, I texted you. It's a lot of background noise where I am. If you could just read what I texted.
Okay. Sorry. Multitasking. I didn't even see it. Okay. Mr. Davidoff says, I support this bargaining agreement and thank the membership and management for all of their efforts in reaching this bargaining agreement. Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Appreciate all of you taking time out of your very busy schedules to participate. Any other comments?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Cortez, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Chief Priest and your team, and also, the men and women who are serving, within our fire department, and for coming together with, with this contract, a responsible contract. Unions have been in our state get, bad reps, as far as, how sustainable these contracts are. And, when I ran for town council, my thought was always that they're not always responsible. But at 4.5% increase over 3 years, that's compared to other contracts. This is a very responsible contract, and this is something that I can support. And I just want to say thank you for putting the time and effort to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Ms. Finley-Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take a moment and thank Town Manager Ledwith for all the work he's done with Chief Priest and Assistant O'Callahan, Chief O'Callahan, and Assistant Chief Grimaldi. I want to thank you all for all that you're doing for our community. In the short time that I've been in my position, I've watched you guys grow your department and keep the town safe at the same time, so you can obviously multitask. But I just wanted to let you know, as a fellow union member, it's always challenging trying to come to an agreement in the bargaining unit. But when it's fair, it always feels good when you have it signed and when you have people who support it. So I thank you for again, a fair and responsible contract to move us forward, not only as a town, but as make sure that you guys are also taken care of. So thank you for that, and I definitely support this.
Thanks. Thank you, Ms. Finley-Smith. Mr. Zdanowitz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank your leadership team, but right down to your newest hire as well. So right down to the lowest ranking, right up to you, Chief Priest, because as you know, it's a team effort, no matter what you do. And coming to an agreement like this is not always easy. So I appreciate your efforts for your whole team, not only tonight for this negotiation, but every day for what you guys do on the street and for the town of West Hartford. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zdanowitz. Mr. Winograd?
A whole lot of dittos. Thank you to your team and to the union team for a successful negotiation. Always happy to see it come to that way, and certainly given the history, I think that says a lot about leadership of both bodies, of the department and of the union, and perhaps coming together, to serving the public has helped repair whatever relations there were in the past. So it's thrilling to see the department working so well. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd, and I echo all of my colleagues' comments. But seeing firsthand so much of the commitment across the board at every level of the fire departments in service and commitment to the town has been so inspiring. I'm truly grateful for the work of all the men and women that serve and give their all that they do to the town. And the leadership team has been incredibly forward-thinking, creative, collaborative, and supportive of their of the department. And I think the department sees that, and that carries a lot of weight. I also want to thank Mr. Ledwith for his leadership in leading us through this negotiation. I do think this is a really strong contract for everyone. Not everybody's happy with everything, and so that means it's good. And I just want to thank for the continued commitment of all of you to the service in the town of West Hartford. So. With that, we will go to a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. Okay, reports from the town manager, Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be as brief as possible. Future meetings, we do have a town council meeting on Tuesday, August 16th. That's our next meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. That is a Tuesday meeting, not a Thursday meeting. We do have second round of resurfacing occurring throughout town. This occurs on Berwyn Road, Berwyn Lane, Brookside Drive, Cliffmore Road from Rustic Lane to Brookside Drive, Fairwood Farms Drive, Garland Road, North Main Street, Asylum Avenue to Wynwood Road, Oakwood Avenue, Wilford Street to Flatbush Avenue, and then Rustic Lane. We anticipate about a week to complete the roadway milling and 2 to 3 weeks to complete the paving. We will have detours in place on North Main Street and Oakwood Avenue during active construction, but the roads will be reopened to traffic at the end of each workday. Applications for our recovery grant begin on July 20th. Information is now available on our website regarding West Hartford's new recovery grant available to small businesses and nonprofit organizations. We did hold 2 informational webinars that were widely attended on July 6th, and the second webinar was this past week on July 12th, which gave small businesses and nonprofits the opportunity to learn more about the program. The application acceptance period begins Wednesday, July 20th and runs through Wednesday, August 10th, or until all of the $2 million has been dispersed to eligible applicants. The grant program will provide one-time direct financial assistance up to $10,000 to eligible West Hartford businesses and nonprofit organizations with 50 or fewer full-time employees, has operations in West Hartford, and can demonstrate that they have been adversely impacted by the COVID pandemic. Just a quick reminder that taxes with tax bills have been mailed. Everybody has them now, and they are due on August 1st, and they can be paid online, by mail, or by secure Dropbox, or in person here at Town Hall. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Litwith. Are there questions for the town manager? Seeing and hearing none, we now have reports from Corporation Counsel. Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the outset, I do feel compelled to address some of what I feel are the mischaracterizations that were made during the public forum with regard to the opinion that my office issued, as well as the conduct of myself and other town staff. First, Madam Mayor, as is indicated in the opinion, it is purely procedural. It was not an evaluation or a judgment on the merits of the application that was before the TPZ. It certainly was a difficult question to resolve. However, this is obviously a new ordinance and it's difficult to interpret. I do want to make clear that once we identified that there was a procedural defect with the vote that took place at TPZ, this office, as well as the town planner, made every effort to try and work with the applicant to find an alternative way to honor Pelignot by finding another street in the same area to rename after him. And I really want to commend the town planner in particular, who actually made multiple site visits out to the surrounding neighborhood to investigate what other streets might be available to rename, what streets might be appropriate to rename, who made multiple visits to residences on those streets, and actually even took the step of sending inquiries by mail to other residents on other streets to identify if there might be an alternative way to honor Pelignot. I do remain hopeful that hopefully we can find a way to honor Pelignot. I met multiple times with the applicant, both by telephone and actually had him into my office in Town Hall to discuss the application and the research that he had done into this. He is an incredibly impressive young man, the applicant is. And I was very taken with the research that he did and the thought that he had put into this application. And I do hope that the town can work with him to find a way to honor Pelignot. But I just did feel, Madam Mayor, the need to address what I feel were some mischaracterizations of the opinion and the conduct of myself and also town staff. Having said that, Madam Mayor, you will note that on your agenda, we do require an executive session this evening to discuss pending litigation before, that the town is a party to. I do expect that we will hopefully have some business to take up after the executive session is done. I do not anticipate the executive session taking a long time, though. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any questions for Corporation Counsel? Okay, then we will go to announcements. Quickly, West Hartford Leisure Services and West Hartford Yoga are hosting, are in the parks this summer, led by professional yoga instructors. Free classes will be held at Eisenhower Park at 5:30 on Wednesdays and Beachland at 9 a.m. and family yoga is held on Thursday at 10 a.m. West Hartford Library presents a family concert. Join Roly Poly Guacamole at Blueback Square for a fun-filled outdoor concert. This is a high-energy interactive family concert with a mix of funk, rock, and folk mashed into original tunes about natural living, eating healthy, and staying active. This performance is sponsored by the Ellen Jean Goldfarb Memorial Charitable Trust. Shakespeare Festival, Capital Classics, presents the Greater Hartford Shakespeare Festival at our own West Hartford, University of St. Joseph. Much Ado About Nothing will run on July 14th through July 31st. And there's a link for tickets. I'm not going to read that. West Hartford Summer Arts Festival will also take place July 23rd through 30th. That is Something Rotten is the outrageous and crowd-pleasing musical farce. Performances are held at Conard High School on July 23rd, 28th, 29th, and 30th at 7 p.m. and 24th at 3 p.m. Tickets also are on sale, westhartfordsaf.com. Camp Blueback is every Tuesday, 10 a.m. to noon, right in the square now through August 9th. And kids enjoy arts and crafts activities, summer story time, sing-alongs, character visits, face painting, balloon animals, and more. The event is free. No registration is needed. Ballet Under the Stars will take place. This is a Marge Wilder tribute, and it returns to Elizabeth Park on July 30th at 6:30 p.m. Bring a blanket and a picnic and enjoy the magic of classic and contemporary ballet. And you can go to ConnecticutBallet.org. Gazebo concert series are taking place at the Senior Centers of West Hartford, 6 p.m. at Elmwood Community Center. Musical acts include Airborne Jazz on July 19th, Mojo Kitchen on August 2nd, John Banker Island Rhythm on August 16th. Bring the whole family. Ice cream will be served. In the event of rain, the concert will be in the auditorium. The Carillon concert series will also take place Thursday in July at 6 p.m. at First Church. Also, you can take a blanket and sit out on the lawn and listen to the beautiful music from the bell tower. Elizabeth Park concerts are also held every Thursday in July at 6:30, although last night, I know we're missing one tonight, but last night our own LaTanya Farrell performed at Elizabeth Park for the 125th anniversary, and she was awesome. It was a great night, fabulous weather, great music, and wonderful energy. And she is, of course, one of the most remarkable, charming people you could ever meet. I also want to, there was something else I had, and I don't remember what it was. Okay, any other announcements? Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you recall, the last meeting I had announced that West Hartford United Methodist Church food drive was wrapping up at the end of June, and I'm happy to announce that they have extended that food drive through Labor Day. And that food drive, just a reminder, it benefits our food pantry in town, and it's been a great resource to people in that area. They can a convenient way for them to stop by, and we have a bin outdoors, so it's accessible 24 hours. So it has been a great resource. So it'll be extended through Labor Day and possibly beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. And just, I don't have it on this, and I know usually when Ms. McHugh is here, we really reach out because summer is a challenging time for our food pantry because kids are home and they need food. So just a reminder to make sure that you either drop off there or directly with our food pantry. And I do want to apologize for kind of rushing through, but people are traveling, and we had this on a Thursday, just to explain, so we had, because of our public hearing schedule, so we could set something. When we set this 4 months ago, or several months ago, we wanted to make sure that we had more than within a 30-day to 60-day window between this and our August meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood why we're meeting on a Thursday and why many of our colleagues are traveling and busy doing family things. And I know some people drove hours to get here from their other locations. And I know, happy anniversary, Miss Billing Smith, and who also came home to be here. So we really very dedicated public officials who needed to get some business done, and we really appreciate you all being here. So now we will go to number 12. Mr. Winograd, this executive session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For Without objection, I move that pursuant to to Section 1206B of the Connecticut General Statutes to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to pending litigation, I move that we enter executive session to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to pending litigation for Amato Mouchette versus Town of West Hartford and Paul W. Gianfrido. I invite the Town Manager, Corporation Counsel, Deputy Corporation Counsel, and Attorney Dennis Duro from Karsten and Hellberg LLC to join us.
Is there any objection? Seeing and hearing no objection, we will, the motion is adopted and we will move into executive session. And I think we will hang up here and then, okay. So I'm going to hang up Carol and Leon, and I know, Leon, you probably have to go. Is that accurate?
Okay.
Carol, but we're going to, how are we going to do this?
I will join in. I have the information.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we'll have her hang up in here and join an executive session. I did just want to emphasize for Councilor Blanks, we will need you back after executive session because I do anticipate that we'll have business to act upon, and we will need a quorum in order to do that.
Is that okay, Ms. Blanks?
Okay. Yes, it is. Yes,
Thank you.
I'll just mute myself.
We're very grateful.
I know when I'm on.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye. Okay, thank you all. to listen to this one. All right. Carol is now on this phone, but I can.
I'm here.
Okay, so Mr. Winograd's suspense item.
Without objection, I move that we suspend the rules for the purpose of adding to the agenda a resolution authorizing the Corporation Council to settle pending litigation, Amada Machette versus Town of West Hartford and Paul Gianfrido.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the rules are suspended and the resolution is added to the agenda. Mr. Winograd?
I move adoption of resolution authorizing the Corporation Council to settle pending litigation, Amada Machette versus Town of West Hartford and Paul W. Gianfrido.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Dodge, would you like to summarize?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this settlement resolves a longstanding case that was brought against the town first in 2013 in U.S. federal court and was then, and following the dismissal of those claims in federal court, was removed to state court. It's an excessive force case relating to a police matter that occurred at the American School for the Deaf. Madam Mayor, this settlement does not represent an admission of fault or liability on behalf of the town, and I recommend adoption by the town council.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Is there any questions or comments? All right. We will go to a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, and this is adopted. Mr. Winograd. Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. Without objection, I move that we are adjourned. Is there any objection? Seeing none, we are now adjourned. Have a good evening.